So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Roswell in the 21st century is a detailed re-examination of the Roswell UFO crash case. I have studied the evidence for more than 30 years, and I now put that evidence under a microscope in a cold case examination of the facts. These facts might not please everyone. They are based on my comprehensive investigation that took years to complete, but they do lead to the conclusion that whatever fell was not built on Earth. The best of Project Blue Book is based on the 22-year-long investigation conducted by the Air Force. But the book goes far beyond that, bringing in evidence that was uncovered long after Project Blue Book was ordered terminated. Using facts that were unavailable to the Air Force investigators, I was able to prove that the Air Force manipulated the data and drew unrealistic conclusions about the UFO sightings reported to them. My different perspective shows there was more to Project Blue Book than even the Air Force knew. Both books are available at Amazon.com.
Join Patty Conklin and Healing Within Radio each week. More than entertainment, Healing Within offers educational, useful tools for everyday life. Listen for help overcoming fear, anxiety, and depression. Patty knows about eliminating cancer, MS, dementia, Parkinson's, and a host of illnesses that we face every day. Life can be good. Life is good. All you need are simple tools to start changing your life. Start right now by visiting pattyconklin.com, PATTICONKLIN. No matter where you are in the world, you can work with Patty through Skype, phone, or in person, visiting one of her retreats in Georgia. Visit pattyconklin.com today or call our offices at 404-474-0086. That's pattyconklin.com or call 404-474-0086.
Hi everyone, this is Patty Conklin and Healing Within. Thank you so much for joining me today and being a part of today's show. I know you're going to find it informative and very enlightening. So I want to talk to you a little bit about my guest, and then we're going to get a whole lot more information from her. My guest today is Julie Ryan, and the website is askjulieryan.com. Julie is a psychic and medical intuitive, and she can sense when medical conditions and illnesses a person has and facilitate energetic healings. She can communicate with spirits, both alive and dead. Julie can scan animals, access people's past lives, and remove ghosts from home and other building. And she can tell how close to death someone is. Her book, Angelic Attendants, What Really Happens as We Transition from This Life into the Next, describes a series of events that involves angels, multitudes of deceased family and friends, the spirits of deceased pets, and countless serendipitous and miraculous moments. Julie's latest book, Angel Messages for Kids, is a picture book that has angels answering kids' tough questions. Each week, Julie scans callers on her podcast, which is heard by millions in over 100 countries throughout the world. Julie is a businesswoman, an inventor, an author, a podcaster, and a serial entrepreneur. Her surgical device inventions are sold globally, and she has founded 9 companies in 5 different industries. Julie's psychic and medical intuitive skills are learned. And I'm going to go right to all sorts of things. So, Julie, thank you for being here with me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I am looking forward to this. So I want to get into the surgical devices.
Okay.
What kind of surgical devices?
Orthopedic surgery devices. My first invention, Patty, is an auto transfusion device used for total joint surgery, which in English means that when somebody gets a new hip or a knee or a shoulder joint, the bones bleed post-op, post-surgery. And the blood that comes out of the bone is really good quality blood. So it goes into a disposable device like a blood bag in a rigid outer shell. And when it's full, we put a filter on it, turn it upside down, and give the patient back their own blood. So they don't have to use bank blood, somebody else's blood, or pre-deposit their blood. And it's whole blood, so it's got the plasma and the white cells and the red cells and all the goodies, versus when you get blood from a blood bank, it's usually just packed red cells or just plasma. So it helps people get better faster. And it's been sold throughout the world for over 30 years this year.
Wow.
And then I have other devices as well that I've invented. But my other best known one is used when an orthopedic surgeon is scoping a knee or a shoulder. They're doing an arthroscopy, and they use lots of irrigation fluid. And that fluid's contaminated because it's coming out of the patient's knee, for instance, and it goes all over the floor of the operating room. So my device is a big mat that's hooked up to suction that collects, contains, and eliminates that fluid so that it's not an infection control nightmare or a hazardous situation for the surgeon and the staff, and they're on a wet floor.
Right. So what's your background in this area? We'll get into intuitive here in a minute, but what's your background in creating these?
I have a communications degree.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
No, I went to work for a big hospital supply company, my first job right out of college. And then I started my first company at 25 and had my first inventions that were patented and sold by the age of 30.
Yeah. So what led you on that path of, dealing with bones and tissues and operating rooms and so forth? I mean, with the communication degree, being in the hospital, I mean, obviously you intuited a need and moved forward with it. What?
Yes, very much so. As far as the inventions go, I started my first company at 25, and it was in the medical supply business, and I introduced a product that was a precursor to my inventions to the American marketplace in my mid-20s. And long story short, from a business standpoint, parted ways with them, ended up suing a $30 billion company for breach of contract, and started a company to compete with them on that product, won the lawsuit, started a company to compete with them, and then beat them at their own game, basically, is what happened.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
on
that one product. I didn't have a $30 billion global company, but I beat them at their own game on that product.
Right. Important all the same, just to stand up.
Well, it was like, I'm young, I know I'm a girl, and I even have blonde hair, but I'm taking you to court. I spent 10 days in federal court in Boston of January of 1990. And I walked into the courtroom, Patty. I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I walked into the courtroom, and, this multi-billion-dollar company, here's this young woman from California suing them, the audacity.
Right.
I walked in the courtroom with my lawyer, and they had 5 lawyers in there, and I thought, this is going to be fun. But I still won the case, won a bunch of money from them. And then I knew everything that was wrong with their product, and I knew everything that was wrong with other products. So I that were in that space. So I designed a better mousetrap, if you will, and it became number 1 globally. And still is being sold 30 years later.
That is absolutely wonderful and phenomenal and just exciting. I mean, females in general just need to hear that. And, I think that, way back when I was in my early 20s and married to a professor of engineering, he would develop new pieces of equipment in agricultural engineering, and he'd get stuck on his development, and he would bring the blueprints home And I'd look at it and say, no, move this sprocket over here, put this gear here. And as soon as I looked at it, I got it so it was working. So he got 7 patents while we were together because I could look at that and decide what needed to be readjusted. And he never got a single patent afterwards, after we divorced. So I just think that, women, I don't want to get into a whole women's issue here, but I think women undersell themselves. And certainly in those early 20s, just because you're in your early 20s doesn't mean that you can't see and know what you're talking about. So kudos. That's exciting.
Just one more point along that line of thinking is I brought in a couple of engineers into my company, and they were brilliant, MIT trained, and they drew it together, and we got the patents and all that kind of stuff. But I used to say to them, the patent has to be good, granted, but at the same time, I got to be able to sell it. It doesn't matter how good the product is. Yep. If you can't sell it, it's really not going to benefit anybody.
Exactly.
And I think being able to your point, see the whole picture instead of just what you've been trained to do as far as how are we going to engineer that's just one piece of the puzzle. I had to come up with marketing, a name, trademarks, how are we going to sell it, with whom are we going to distribute, on and on and on. So
exactly.
I think we as women, to your point, we're multitaskers. It's a superpower that we have.
Absolutely.
We come in with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for asking that.
And we don't need to stay in that one genre. I went into politics and, I started my company and so on and so forth. I love to talk to women who understood early that they could do what they needed to do. They could see the big picture and put all the pieces together and multitask, just like you said, and be able to get somewhere with a product or something that someone needs. And this just sounds phenomenal. So I've never had to have knee surgery or anything like that. But as I get older, I'm going to be thinking about you if I do need some. So.
Okay. All right. Be glad to help.
Okay. I'll be seeing if your equipment is in the room or not, and whether or not it's viable at that point for me. But kudos. It's an important asset for people. So we've only got a little bit left before we go into our next segment. But how did you learn to be a medical intuitive and psychic?
I had a girlfriend give me a book for my birthday, and it was called Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Mays. And she called herself a medical intuitive. And I thought, what the heck is that? I'd never heard that term before. Yeah. And certainly I was working in the hospital supply industry to help doctors help people heal. And I was interested. So I read her book, and then I wanted to know more. And back then, Patty, we didn't have the internet yet, and we didn't have Amazon yet.
Right.
So I did the old fashioned thing, and I went to a bookstore and I found a book called Hands of Light by Barbara Brennan, who's a former NASA physicist who parlayed very complex quantum physics principles into understandable English and teaches people how to use energy fields to facilitate healing. Mm-hmm. And I was interested in learning more. So I called her school at the time. Now, this is 30 years ago.
Right.
And I called her school and I said, do you have anybody in my area that's teaching, perhaps a graduate? And lo and behold, she did. So
hold that thought. You studied with her, I'm sure.
Right.
So,
I did.
Okay. When we come back from break, I want to hear all about that because it sounds like we have similar paths, but I didn't study with Barbara. So let's come back. And folks, we'll be right back with Julie Ryan. This is an exciting show. Stay tuned.
Are you looking for psychic services that empower as well as provide accurate information? Jenny is a third-generation psychic with extensive esoteric training. A practicing professional intuitive for over 30 years, her accuracy is astounding. While most psychics can read what will happen to you if you don't change directions, Jenny understands the future is subjective. While there is a river of time we all traverse, that river has many waves, eddies, currents, and tributaries from which to choose. With Jenny as your guide, you can explore the many possible outcomes in the river of time and navigate your course to the one of your liking. Take control of your future. Book your life-changing session with Jenny today at www.gen-e.net. That's www.gen-e.net.
Mission Evolution is dedicated to the well-being of the planet and animals, as well as the evolution of humankind. One major factor threatening all three is increasing toxicity. Heavy metals and other environmental toxins are poisoning our bodies, deteriorating our brains, blocking our spiritual connection, and shortening our lives. Yet these poisons are extremely difficult to remove. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, and I recently became aware of a product created from the marriage of nature and nanotechnology called Vitality. It's formulated from zoolite, whose crystalline structure binds toxins, gently carrying them out of the body. The light is only as clear as the window through which it shines. Clear your body, shine your light into the world. Visit vitalityhappens.com for a 20% discount. Enter code PATHHOME.
In the mid-1990s, I was approached by a young woman who believed she'd been abducted by alien creatures. In conversations, I began a journey that took me not into the world of interstellar travel, but back through time into past lives. Under hypnotic regression administered by a professional rather than describing abduction, Jenny, as she is called, begins to tell a tale of horror in 19th century London. Her unbelievable past life seems to connect with Jack the Ripper and other monsters of the past. Throughout the session, Jenny provides a rich detail of her past lives that links some of the most horrific killers in history to one another. Using the resources of a university library in the pre-internet's day, I was able to verify some of Jenny's claims. She has knowledge that wasn't readily available to a suburban housewife. Does this prove the reality of her tales? Conversations attempts to answer that and other provocative questions. Conversations is available at Amazon.com.
And hello, everyone. We're back again. This is Patty Conklin and Healing Within, and my guest, Julie Ryan, who is an extraordinary woman, and really enjoying our chat. And I know you're going to learn a lot more as we move through this segment. So, Julie, Barbara Brennan. So, did you take Barbara's training?
I did not. I learned from a graduate of her school who took what she learned from Barbara Brennan's school and then put her own nuances and techniques with that. And I learned from her, and I studied with her for 6 years, Patty.
Oh, wow.
And paid the equivalent of what I would have paid to get a PhD or an MD in graduate school. and then started utilizing what I learned. And of course, you know, you learn stuff and then you put your own spin on what you learn, and you find techniques and things that work from there. And now I teach a class to people all over the world. You got to speak English to take my class. But I teach it 4 times a year. It's online. It's real time. We're on Zoom. Before Zoom was popular.
That's right.
I started it about a year ago, and I've had people from all walks of life, several doctors, many professors, lawyers, housewives, construction workers. I mean, you don't have to have any prior knowledge to take my class, and I teach people how to communicate with spirit, and then you can take it anywhere you want. I think we all come in with the capability to do this work. It's just a matter of utilizing the skills everybody has and then just enhancing them.
Absolutely. That's been my philosophy forever, is that you've got your own skill. My job as a teacher is just to enhance your skill. not to attempt a mini me, because that's not going to work on any of us. But one thing that I always, that I never moved into was speaking to spirit and speaking to deceased people and so forth. That was never my skill set. So talk to me about how that developed for you and what that's like for you.
Well, I tell people I'm a businesswoman that learned how to do woo-woo, and I'm a buffet of psychicness, which is true. And that's what I teach my students as well. And how it works to me is, if I can help someone communicate with spirit, then they can take it anywhere they want. It's similar to, if we can teach someone to read, they can learn anything they want that's in the written word. Likewise, if I can help people communicate with spirit and validate the information that they're getting, then they can do whatever they want with it. They can do medical intuitive stuff. They can scan pets. They can talk to deceased loved ones. They can talk to Napoleon or Mother Teresa or anybody they want. They can talk to spirit that's connected to a human body. That's how I do my medical intuitive work. My spirit connects with someone else's spirit. They can do past life stuff. They can do spirit guide stuff, whatever. And every spirit has a frequency, Patty. Our heads are like big satellite dishes, and we receive and transmit frequencies like a radio station, like what we're doing right now, talking on your show.
Yeah.
And by thinking of someone, you tune your satellite dish head to that spirit's frequency, whether it's attached to a body or not. It doesn't matter, because I have found that spirit keeps the same frequency through eternity. And so that's how we're able to do past life. We're able to connect with deceased loved ones, whatever. We think of that person, that turns our satellite dish to their frequency, their station, if you will. Right. And then we communicate with them telepathically. So spirit communicates in a way that it feels like it's a thought in our head, and it comes in instantly. So if we think about it for more than a couple of seconds, that's going to be our brain talking to us.
Right. Yeah. The instant response is usually the spirit response. But so I totally agree that frequency stays out same for eternity. So I'll tap into someone's frequency within their body. And obviously, look at things there. But when you're outside of the body, when it's a soul, when it's a soul spirit, whether we're going into past lives, does that change at all for you in terms of how you're viewing? No.
No, when I'm doing past life stuff, I will connect to the person, obviously ahead of time, and then I will see mini movies in my mind's eye, if you will, kind of in my head. My eyes are closed and I'm watching scenes, and I get what I call divine downloads at the same time. So I'll get information about where it was, what the year was, what they were doing, things like that. And then we'll correlate that information with what's happening in their current life, which is really fun to do past life stuff. I'm sure you found the same thing, because we can corroborate information that we receive with historical data that we can find online. And like I'll get a name and where they were and what was going on and all that, and then we'll look them up and we'll be able to find information on them. And people are like, "Oh my gosh, this is so wild."
Yep, that's one of the wonderful things about the internet and information, is being able to go and verify and quantify what it is that they're feeling or seeing. So talk to me about the 12 stages of transition.
When everyone is dying, we go through what I call the 12 phases of transition, which is a configuration of angels and deceased loved ones who surround us as we're dying. And everybody goes through this, as I perceive it, Patty, whether their death is instant, for instance, in the case of a suicide or a homicide, or if their death is in their dying process is very prolonged. I had a gal call into my show for 2 years, and her father, who had Alzheimer's, was dying for 2 years, and he was in phase 11 of 12. Just took him a long time. So I can scan anybody anywhere in the world real time, and I'm going to get a picture of what the configuration of angels and deceased loved ones is around them if they're dying. And I can say, okay, they're in phase 6, for instance. And then if they move through the other phases fairly quickly, it's time to call the family in.
Yeah.
And I find that it's a frame of reference that families really appreciate, because oftentimes we are taking time off work, or we're traveling long distances to go see our loved one who's dying. And we want to be there for them.
Right.
And it's really helpful. Likewise, I can communicate with the patient who's dying or the person who's dying telepathically and get all kinds of information from them for the family. And I always ask, are you ready to go? What do you need? Are you in pain? And that is really helpful, that information to convey with the family.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to, in following that, I want to talk to you a little bit about the children's book that you've just written. My 7-year-old grandson is seeing spirits now. And, and I've talked about it on this show before. We don't really talk about my mother, and he's only 7 years old, and we were getting ready to walk in my house, and he looked at me and he's like, look, there's my great grandmother. And he's pointing to the side of the house. And I'm like, what? And he's like, your mom. And I'm like, oh, and he's like, she's standing there. She's saying hi. And I'm like, good. Okay. That's great. Hi. And, and he looks at me and he's like, your house is filled with people. Don't you know that? I'm just like, no. But it just, I want to keep that active in him. So, I always pay attention when he's talking like that. But how do children really, I kind of think that the more pre-verbal they are, the earlier they can talk, the more that they can remember and bring into things. But how does your book associate with spirit, or what are we really looking at for the kids?
I've had so many mothers over the years, Patty, that have said to me, can you please write a book and explain that I can use to explain to my child that they really are seeing spirits, or that they really are remembering past life things that we've been able to corroborate with historic information. And these children can't read yet.
Right.
So they're very young. And we all come in with the ability to be intuitive and psychic. And then children start to shut it down when their grown-ups around them say, oh, honey, that's just your imagination. That's not really real.
No one's there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear it.
And I've had many moms over the years, Patty, say, how do I explain to my 3-year-old that my grandmother's body's in the casket at the funeral home, and we're in the funeral home, but we're telling him that Grammy's in heaven? And he's going, no, Mom, Grammy's over there asleep.
Right.
So that's what my book addresses. And it talks about that we're spirits and we have a body and all of that. And it's been so well received, Patty, to the point where I have moms that send me notes or emails or comments, and they say things like, my 2-year-old wouldn't sleep through the night since he was born. I got your book. We read it once before he went to bed. And I said, honey, if you wake up in the middle of the night, talk to your angels. And the child has slept through the night ever since. And he requests that we read the book every night. And I had a mom just send me a note about her 2-year-old in New York City. And she said that she wants to read the book every night before she goes to bed. She carries it around with her. And she said, I made the mistake of leaving the house without putting the book in the diaper bag.
Oh, goodness.
And she had a fit. So she said, I got an extra copy and I just leave it in the diaper bag. And the stories that I'm getting, Patty, just lead me to believe that the message is really resonating with these little children.
Yep.
Because they know it makes sense. And I had a consult from a PhD in early childhood learning. So I've taken great pains to make it in verbiage and in pictures in a way that these children can understand it based on what their cognitive level is.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more when we come back. Folks, this is Patty Conklin and Julie Ryan on Healing Within. Be right back.
How would your life change if you could develop the business and personal skills that you need in order to make more money? Do you want to learn how to achieve your big life goals faster? Then go to findhiddenmoney.com and get the Goal for It online course. The course teaches you how you can set and achieve your biggest goals while completely overcoming the roadblocks to your goals so that you can realize your dreams and imagine more success. Go to findhiddenmoney.com.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide. Audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Memorable dynamic presentations are a not-so-secret weapon in the business world. Do you have a powerful message that must be shared, but you haven't found a way to deliver that message? Do you want to be known as a top public speaker who gets amazing results? Are you ready to create and deliver your powerful message? Thomas Hides can help you create and deliver your speech to get the results you desire. Visit iconquality.com.
Hey everyone, it's Patty Conklin and Healing Within. Thank you so much for being a part of today's show and listening to my awesome guest, Julie Ryan. You can find Julie at AskJulieRyan.com and look her up on the website. I know lots of you are going to be running as we finish up the show today, but please wait until we finish up the show today so we can talk a little bit more and you can hear some more details. So in talking to people about this book, you were saying you were working with, was there a PhD parent? What was that?
A PhD who runs early childhood learning for a very large internet company we would all know and use daily. And she has been my consultant on here, just helping me tweak the words so that little children can really understand the book, Angel Messages for Kids. And interestingly enough, Patty, I just finished working with her and my editor on this sequel, which is called Angel Messages for Dogs. And it's about angels talking to dogs and how, you know, dogs have a spirit and they have a body and they pick their family and stuff like that. And I just was emailing this morning earlier with my illustrator. So we're going to have fun with that one.
Wow.
But I'm being led by these moms with little children and grandmothers too, because these kids have these questions and we don't really have good ways to explain this to them.
Right.
And so that's why I'm being led to do the book. My Angelic Attendants, what happens as we transition from this life into the next, that's really for the adults, but this is for kids too, about how does this work. One of my favorite stories is I have a girlfriend whose grandson told his mother, his name's Walter, and Walter was 4 when he said this, and he said, "Mommy, you're my favorite of all my mommies." And she said, "Well, I am your only mommy." And he said, "No, Mom, you're my favorite of all my mommies." And she said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And he said, "Well, Mom, babies are born to a mommy and daddy, and then they grow up and they die, and then they're born to another mommy and daddy, and then they grow up and die, and you're my favorite of all my mommies." And she's on the phone with her mother saying, "Call Julie, find out what she says. How does my 4-year-old know this stuff? I mean, where's that coming from?" And so the interesting thing, I was being led to do that book, and it came out very quickly. I actually paid my illustrator double last year to get it out before Christmas. My spirit guide was really urging me to get it out before Christmas. And I thought, all right. It can be a Christmas present. It was published December 20th. But then I was talking to someone else a couple of months ago, Patty, and she said, "Well, now you know why you were being urged to get it out before Christmas." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Because it's providing so much comfort to children all over the world during this COVID situation."
Right. So true. Wow. It's always amazing to me on how children and we as communicators or whatever are really sitting back, and if you sit and listen to the child, and I had that experience with my son Dan, who at 13 months old was already speaking full sentences, and he was in a diaper cleaning off the table, and I said, "You did a great job, Dan. I think the table's all clean." And he just looked at me and he said, "But my other mommy used to let me wash as much as I wanted." And I looked at him, and I hadn't decided about past lives. And I looked at him and I said, "What other mommy?" And he laid the sponge down and he looked at me and he said, "Obviously, I need to explain something to you." And chills just went through my spine. And I said, "Obviously." And he said, "It took God a while to get you and Daddy ready for me. And it took us 5 years to conceive." And he said, "So he gave me another mommy and daddy to live with." He said, "I don't remember my dad very much, but I can remember my mom, and I remember her hugs, and I can still feel them." And I said, "What happened?" He said, "I was 9. I got hit by a car because you were ready for me. It didn't hurt, but you were ready for me." And I had to sit back because I'm like, here's a 13-month-old child who, we didn't speak about God. His dad was an atheist. So we didn't have a television. We didn't have radio. I'd never left him alone with a babysitter. So there was nowhere that this information could have come except from him. And I think that so many children really do go through that process, and parents have a tendency to just shut it down because they don't understand it. So sounds like your book for children is really a great book for the parents as well.
It is. Yes. I've heard that. And along those lines with Dan, my son Jonathan, when he was a toddler, again, very highly verbal, was in sentences, talking in sentences before he could walk. I was rocking him one night and giving him his bottle before going to bed. And he sat up and he pointed in the corner of the room and he said, "Mommy, what's that?" And I said, "Well, what are you seeing?" And he said, "A red ball." And I said, "Oh, it's just energy." And he laid back down and he's like, "Okay, cool." I was before I did woo-woo, Patty. I didn't know what it was, but I had enough sense to
acknowledge it.
He was seeing something, even though I wasn't able to see it at the time.
That's so awesome. Yeah. And I don't consider what you're doing woo-woo right now. I mean, we go through these, our business life and our, our growth time and so forth, and move in and continue to expand and grow. And you're putting together a whole regimen of different ideas and thoughts and practices coming into one ball of wax, and I think it's exciting. So how do you, or what do you see when you identify medical issues in a person? How does that come across to you?
It's
Are
as
you
if
hearing it or seeing it?
I see it first. It's as if I'm a human MRI. I can see in my mind's eye broken bones, torn ligaments, viral infections, bacterial infections, cancer, whatever. And then I watch, and as soon as something is identified, it's like I'm seeing an X-ray or a CT scan or an MRI. And as soon as something's identified, Patty, then I watch an energetic healing begin. And that can take the form of something getting added, something getting removed. I watch procedures all the time that emulate what I saw in operating rooms for all those decades. I was in and out of surgeries and other departments of hospitals. Sometimes I see healings that utilize methodologies and devices that haven't been invented yet. But at the end of the day, I'm very descriptive with my client, because if they can envision or have a sense of what I'm watching happen, and it's spirit working through me and with me doing these healings, if they can have a sense of it, it's going to help integrate it into their body. Similar to our bodies are going to follow what our brain shows it, even if we don't believe it. And I talk in analogies a lot. And one I use for that is, think back to a time when you've watched a scary movie. Your brain knows it's pretend, but your heart may feel like it's getting ready to jump out of your chest at any moment. So the healing happens on the energetic level, and then it integrates into the person's body. And that can happen either instantly, it can take days, weeks, months. It may need some kind of complementary care like chiropractic or change in diet or surgery or whatever. But certainly it's always the person's spirit's choice how to implement the healing into their body so that it lines up with what it is they want to experience in this lifetime. And that's with everything. That's not just with this. I mean, that's with where you live, what you do, with whom do you associate. It's all part of our spirit's path of what we're exploring.
Yeah. Now, I know lots of people are interested in pet communication. So how do pets communicate with you?
Telepathically, same as humans. I can talk to a pet anywhere in the world. I talk to alive pets, deceased pets. I can scan a pet medically like I do with humans and see what's going on from a medical standpoint if need be. And it's fun because my daughter-in-law is a veterinarian, and oftentimes I'll see healings happen on a pet, and then I'll call her later. I'll take notes and I'll call her later, and I'll say, okay, this is what I saw. Does this make sense to you? And she'll say, yeah, you were doing blah, 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 blah. But I don't know what the pet names are for things, but I can describe what I'm seeing. Like I had a client who has a bunch of horses, and she races horses, and one of her horses was lame, and she said, what is going on with this horse? And he had the equivalent of a torn meniscus, whatever that is in horse language. And I told her, and she lived near a big university veterinary hospital. She took the horse and she said, you need to scope his back leg, whatever that part is called, because he's got a torn whatever. And she said, they looked at me like I was nuts. And she said they did an MRI on him, and sure enough, that's what he needed. And they looked at me again and they said, how did you know that? And she goes, I have a friend that does voodoo medicine. I said, wow, we need to meet her. So it's really helpful to help pinpoint things, not only with humans, but also with pets. Because oftentimes they usually can't talk to their owners, unless the owner knows how to communicate with them telepathically.
Right. So when we come back for our last segment, my leading question, because we're talking about pets, do pets have past lives? So when we come back, let's talk about that. So it's Patty Conklin, folks, and my guest today is Julie Ryan, AskJulieRyan.com, and we'll be back in just a minute.
was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
In the mid-1990s, I was approached by a young woman who believed she'd been abducted by alien creatures. In conversations, I began a journey that took me not into the world of interstellar travel, but back through time into past lives. Under hypnotic regression administered by a professional rather than describing abduction, Jenny, as she is called, begins to tell a tale of horror in 19th century London. Her unbelievable past life seems to connect with Jack the Ripper and other monsters of the past. Throughout the session, Jenny provides a rich detail of her past lives that links some of the most horrific killers in history to one another. Using the resources of a university library in the pre-internet day, I was able to verify some of Jenny's claims. She has knowledge that wasn't readily available to a suburban housewife. Does this prove the reality of her tales? Conversations attempts to answer that and other provocative questions. Conversations is available at Amazon.com.
Mission Evolution is dedicated to the well-being of the planet and animals, as well as the evolution of humankind. One major factor threatening all three is increasing toxicity. Heavy metals and other environmental toxins are poisoning our bodies, deteriorating our brains, blocking our spiritual connection, and shortening our lives. Yet these poisons are extremely difficult to remove. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, and I recently became aware of a product created from the marriage of nature and nanotechnology called Vitality. It's formulated from zoolite, whose crystalline structure binds toxins, gently carrying them out of the body. The light is only as clear as the window through which it shines. Clear your body, shine your light into the world. Visit vitalityhappens.com for a 20% discount. Enter code PATHHOME.
This is Patty Conklin and Healing Within. Thank you so much for listening into the show today. My guest is Julie Ryan at AskJulieRyan.com, and you can go research her and listen to her podcasts and read her books, and all sorts of information I'm sure is out there. So Julie, do pets have past life? Do animals have past lives? I should say, not just pets, but animals in general.
I get a no on that.
Yeah.
When I ask the question, I get a no. But the interesting point about animals in spirit form is they are present. Their spirits are present around their owners after they die, and they're present when someone is dying. So when my mother was dying, the first time I saw this configuration of angels and deceased loved ones, every dog that we'd had as I was growing up, Patty, their spirits were in the room. And I thought, wow, oh gosh, am I hallucinating this? And then there were other animal spirits, dogs and other animal spirits in the room as well. And I had the sense that they were pets that my mother had when she was growing up. And at her funeral, I asked my uncle, who was in from out of town, her brother, and he named every dog that I described to him. He said, yeah, that was Rusty, or that was whatever, Randy or Fluffy or whatever. So I always laugh, and I tell people, I say, I'm just not that creative. I can't make this stuff up.
I always wonder, though. I mean, I shouldn't say always wonder, because I've never really asked the question before. But I wonder if the animals incarnate with the soul next time around. if they're coming back in, if at some point during their lifetime the animals incarnate, not necessarily as pets, but just even in surrounding. I don't know. That's a wide one for me. I've never really thought about it, never really studied it. So why, people will call and ask a lot to talk about past lives, and it's not typically a place I go, because I have found that there are times when people use a past life as an excuse, a justification not to accomplish something in this lifetime. What is your thoughts on past lives, and why is it important for people to know it?
Well, I don't think it's important for people to know it unless it's something they're interested in. If they're interested in it, they're being led to explore it, which is fine. But how I view past lives, Patty, is that we have a basic script of something that our spirit or our soul wants to explore. And then we'll take that script and explore it through multiple lifetimes from different viewpoints. An analogy I use for that is the movie A Star is Born that was out a couple of years ago with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. That was the fourth remake of that movie. I saw it.
I was going to say Barbara Streisand, wasn't it?
Exactly. In the 70s. Same script, different timeline, different setting, different cast of characters, maybe a few minor nuances, but same basic script. And so that's what I find in multiple lifetimes is, for instance, let's say you want to be an explorer. So in one lifetime, you explore climbing Mount Everest. And in another lifetime, you're exploring maybe being an engineer in the aeronautical space and exploring space or something like that, or whatever. It's like there's a basic script, and then our free will comes in and we can explore that main theme in a bazillion different ways. And we expand out each time we do it. And then when we're done exploring it, then we figure out something else we want to explore. We go back into non-physical. And it's not just one main thing. I think there's maybe a theme that could be a main theme, but there are lots of other little themes that we want to explore along the way. And they're very general. And that's where the free will part comes in, which makes it really fun, and it makes it an adventure.
Right. So talk to me about free will. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, free will, I think, is following where we're led. If we have an idea, as I mentioned before, if somebody's interested in exploring past lives, well, they have the free will to explore past lives. They're not. They don't.
Right.
It doesn't matter. And I think in life, we really can't ever make a mistake, because it's all part of our path and everything's always unfolding perfectly. Even if we're in the middle of something that feels bad or even seems horrific, it's always unfolding perfectly and it's benefiting us in some way. And when we're in a situation where we're faced with something that we don't like, that's how we create what we do like. Because if we don't know what we don't like, then we're not going to know what to create with something that's better.
Exactly.
And that's why we incarnate, is to be able to explore and experience whatever it is we're creating.
Yeah. So obviously you don't have to physically be present to work with someone. Do people, I know we both work all over the world. Do you get the same questions that I do of how can you do it if you're sitting in Georgia and I'm in Istanbul? And I always say there's no such thing as space and time. And so to me, you're sitting right here next to me. How do you perceive it when you're working with someone?
I raise my vibrational level to the level of spirit. I turn my abilities on and off at will. I don't walk around scanning people because I don't think it's ethical, and it would be obnoxious.
Totally agree.
Being in a crowd of people.
Totally
so
agree.
I raise my vibration level to the level of spirit, which is very high. And then I envision a laser beam going from my body to theirs, and I hook in with their spirit, again, the frequency of their spirit. And then I have a picture of a hologram in my mind of them, if I'm doing a medical scan, for instance. And then I envision shooting energy from their feet up through the top of their head. It would be like turning on an MRI or a CT scan, that they're in. And then the information starts coming into my head, both visually and also in downloads of information. And so I talk about that on the spirit level. When we connect to spirit at a super high level, it's like being in this massive running river, and it's all the same, and you can take it wherever you want. I am rarely with someone when I'm scanning them. I would say less than 1% of the time, a fraction of 1% of the time.
Right.
It's always, it doesn't matter. And to your point, time doesn't exist in the spirit world. It's a human invention. It's a human concoction.
Right.
So there's no limit to what we can do.
Right. So when did you write your first book? And we've got a children's book and a second children's book coming out. What's timeline for the next book?
The children's book, Angel Messages for Dogs, will come out by the end of the year. It'll be out probably in the mid-fall time frame. And I wrote Angelic Attendants. Gosh, I think it was published maybe 3 years ago now, Patty. And I was led by my spirit guide, who is a dead pope. His name is Pope Clement VI, to start writing that book. It was several years before I had the courage to release it, because I thought people are just going to think I'm nuts. And I had all these companies and stuff, and I used to lecture in front of big conferences for business stuff. And I thought, people are going to think I'm nuts. And so he prodded me, and quick fun story. He showed up one day and I hit his whole Pope outfit. And I said, well, who are you? And he said, Pope Clement. And I said, there was a Pope Clement? And he said, yeah, I was number 6. And I said, well, can I help you? And he said, yeah, you're supposed to teach the world what happens when people are dying, because they're so afraid, and it's crazy. It's been bastardized over all these years.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, I'm not doing that. I'm a businesswoman. People are going to think I'm nuts. And he said, yeah. So anyways, I Googled him, Patty, and I found he was in office during the bubonic plague when 2/3 of Europe died.
Oh, wow.
And he's best known for his prayers for the dying and his prayers for the dead.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, again.
Yeah, that's pretty clear.
I can't make that up. Yeah. I've never heard of him.
Yep, that's pretty clear. So it's just been a treat to have you on and to hear your story and to hear of your work and so forth. So is there a phone number that people can also reach you at other than your website, or is it mostly through your website of AskJulieRyan.com?
AskJulieRyan.com. You can find whatever you need there. Links to the books, the show, my blog, that is a question somebody has submitted and then I answer it, and that's my weekly blog, and schedule appointments, my class, everything's at AskJulieRyan.com.
Okay. And so in the minute we have left, what word of wisdom would you like to leave our listeners today?
We're all spirits attached to a body having a human experience, and it's supposed to be fun. So if something feels bad, you're probably making up stuff out of fear.
Right.
If something feels good, you're in alignment with your spirit. Spirit's all about love and joy.
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy to discern once you get in the habit.
Absolutely. Julie Ryan, thank you so much for being a guest on Healing Within, and absolutely enjoyed it tremendously, and I hope we stay in touch. So folks, Julie Ryan, we'll be back. Bye-bye.